China is dominating Africa with this insane strategy. The U.S. has always seen Africa as a problem that needs to be fixed, but China sees it as a place where there are opportunities. In the video, I'm going to show you about some of the mistakes the U.S. has made and why many African countries are now looking to China for future growth. Since China started its ambitious Belton Road initiative 10 years ago, 149 countries from all over the world have joined, including 49 of the 54 countries in Africa. This is now a big worry for the United States government. Africa is one of the world's richest continents because it has some of the most valuable minerals and commodities. The United States has always had a strategic interest in Africa, but that interest has always been in the continent's resources, not in how the people of Africa will grow and change in the future. Some of China's Belt and Road projects that have changed the future of Africa. Many Africans' ideas about China have changed because they can see the real results of China's work, like the 100,000 kilometers of roads and 10,000 kilometers of railways that have been built all over the continent. Instead of investing in infrastructure in Africa, the money could be used to build over 1,000 bridges, 100 ports, and dozens of clinics and schools. These are the kinds of projects that give people hope for the future and show them how to live a better life. The United States thinks that African leaders can't make the best decisions for their own countries, so this strategy is disrespectful to African countries. The main goal of the U.S. government is to warn African leaders about the risks of working with China. This is done in the hopes that the U.S. can somehow stop China from investing in Africa. Recently, the president of the African Union said that when we talk, we are often not heard, or at least not given enough attention. What we want to change is this. 20 years ago, the United States was Africa's biggest economic power, while China was almost non-existent there. China's leaders have not gotten together to talk about how to stop the U.S. from doing things in Africa. China just made its own plans to take their share of the market. Now that we're in the present, it's clear that China is winning. In 2022, China traded $261 billion with Africa, which was almost 5 times as much as the United States. But an even more important number that shows how successful China's mission in Africa has been is that 77% of young Africans think China will become the most powerful economic power in Africa. When the U.S. wants to work with Africa, it treats the whole continent as if it were one place and doesn't talk to each country on its own. China is their country's most important partner for its future success. How did the United States stop being the most important country in Africa? One simple mistake is to blame. Smaller developing countries are often looked down on by the U.S. government. Let me explain. China is their country's most important partner for its future success. When China works with African countries, it does so on a country-by-country basis. It treats each country with respect and gives each country a chance to talk to China about its own problems and needs. The disrespectful way the U.S. treats other countries is one of the main things that worries people. In December 2013, the United States Africa Leaders Summit was held in Washington, D.C. The main goal of the summit was to show African leaders that the United States is a better trading partner than China. Once again, the government of the United States of America set the goals, made the policies, and told the leaders of Africa to put America's plan into action without first thinking about what the African leaders needed. The United States Africa Summit was a complete waste of time, and nothing will change because of it. We know this is true because the same thing happened in 2014 when President Obama held his own version of the United States Africa Leaders Summit. Even though it's been 8 years, the U.S. still doesn't know how to treat Africans right. The U.S. needs to realize that Africans will not take it any longer. Because now that we know why China overtook the U.S. is going to slowly lose ground to China, Russia, and every other country. This is because the U.S. doesn't respect Africans, doesn't treat Africans as equals, and doesn't understand that exploitation and abuse of Africa can't go on. That is because exploitation and abuse of Africa can't go on if Africans aren't respected and they aren't treated as equals, and if people don't understand that. Let's talk about some of China's most important infrastructure projects and how they have changed how many Africans see China. Let's start with the Addis Ababa-Djibouti Railway, which is 760 kilometers long and connects the 2 biggest cities in Ethiopia and Djibouti. France was the first country to connect these 2 countries by train. This happened more than 100 years ago, but the railway hadn't been running for more than 10 years before China helped to rebuild it. According to this article from the Ethiopian Monitor, the new railway has quickly become one of the most important infrastructure projects in the Horn of Africa region. It has also increased its contribution to Ethiopia's import and export trade by 15%, bringing in $47 million in the first 6 months of its most recent fiscal year. The new railway was finished in 2016, and it quickly became one of the most important infrastructure projects in the Horn of Africa region. China has built almost 1,000 bridges in African countries. The idea to build this bridge started in 1989, when the World Bank made a plan for making Maputo, the capital city of Mozambique, more like other cities. It has a length of more than 3,000 meters and is Africa's longest suspension bridge. The Maputo-Katempe Bridge in Mozambique is one of the most interesting. The project was put on hold until 2008, when Portugal said it might be interested in helping pay for it. But when the global financial crisis hit in 2008, Portugal had to pull out of the project. This made it possible for China to finally offer this much-needed service bridge. China started building the bridge in 2014, and it was finished in 2018 after costing a total of $726 million. Now, I want to be completely open and honest about China's Belton Road program, and I want everyone to know that not every project under this initiative has been a financial success. China's overseas investments have given money to almost 300 projects in 149 different countries. Some projects will always fall short of expectations or even fail. But China's BRI investments are like a diversified stock portfolio, where some stocks will do better than expected, some will do worse, and others will do about the same as expected. But because you have a diversified portfolio, your overall net worth should go up in the end. Infrastructure projects to increase trade with China over the long term. This is exactly what China is trying to do with the Belton Road initiative. One project I'd like to highlight is the Standard Gauge Railway in Kenya, which connects the port city of Mombasa to the capital city of Nairobi. It costs $3.6 billion to finish. This is Kenya's most expensive infrastructure project. The Chinese government gave loans to pay for 90% of the railway's construction. At first, when the project first started, it went very well. During the building of the railway, more than 30,000 new jobs were made for Kenyans, and more than 5.4 million people used the railway in its first year of service. Even though the project made transportation more efficient and cut down on travel time and costs, it has not been profitable, leaving the Kenyan government with a large amount of debt to pay back. Some people will say that China is using this railway to force Kenya into a debt trap, but this is not true. China has never taken any property from a country that has stopped paying back a loan. Kenya had to put money into building the Kenyan railway because it was important. A country can only get out of poverty and into the middle class by putting more money into its infrastructure and giving its people more jobs. China has spent hundreds of billions of dollars building the world's longest and most connected high-speed railway inside China. Many of these lines have also not made money, but they are investments for the future. Inside of China, China has built the world's longest and most connected high-speed railway. China was one of the 10 poorest countries in the world about 50 years ago. Today, it has the second largest economy in the world, bigger than the U.S. That's all. Thank you for watching. Do not forget to like and subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell icon to get more videos.